Hey, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a Q&A based on the questions you guys have asked over my socials in relation to my time at Fnatic so far. Okay, so the first question we have is, how would you rate the team comms out of 10, and are there occasional miscomms in high pressure situations between the Swedes and the Brits? To be honest, I would say obviously there are always going to be times where there is like some miscomms in pretty much any team, whether the team's speaking all the same language or like us where we're speaking a language where a few players may not have spoken before in game, and maybe it happens definitely more for us. There might be times where they might be thinking of it in Swedish and then have to think of it in English and then say it, and sometimes they might be a bit slow on it. But to be honest, overall I think Freddie, like Crims and Brolin have done really well so far adapting to speaking English in game and communicating that way, because I think they've done a great job so far, and there hasn't been many times where it's been like a really big problem or anything like that. I think most of the times they get out what they need to say and communicate what needs to be communicated. So up next we have, how do you feel to be back at LAN after the COVID pandemic, and what's the team goals for 2022? Okay, so for me, I haven't been to a proper LAN, like tier 1 LAN yet, just because of the pandemic. And even for me now, we've played at IM Winter, which was obviously a studio LAN, so it was a good experience for me, and being able to like maybe take that middle step, not going from like the online tournaments I've played and straight into front of a crowd and a huge LAN, which I think is going to be beneficial for me, where I can gain that little bit of experience at studio LAN before, and then hopefully in the new year be able to qualify and get invites to the bigger tournaments where hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to play in front of a big crowd and go from there, because I think it'll be a great experience for me and obviously the team, because we haven't done it as a team yet, and I think it'll be a great thing. And then also in terms of team goals, for us it's like we haven't had an actual chat yet on what our set goals are, but for us it's always to show improvements going from one tournament to the other and hopefully go from there. And maybe like for us, we come off 2 wins, like 2 tournament wins on online tournaments before I'm Winter, and then we didn't make it to playoffs. But for us, we still made some progress, because the only team we lost to were Gambit, who obviously are a top team and showing the like top 3 in the world, let's say, or top 4. So for us, even though we didn't go on and win IM Winter, it was still for us an improvement, because we had shown that it was our first LAN together, or first studio LAN, and I think we performed pretty well in most of the games, and sometimes it was sloppy, but I think for us we still showed some improvements and showed that progress. Now we have, how could the UK pro scene catch up to the rest of Europe, and is it still possible? So I think it definitely is possible. It's just that I think within the UK there needs to be more maybe motivation, or that like hunger to want to be the best, or to actually prove that they want to be the best, because I think throughout my experience in the UK it's been kind of like a lot of players kind of have some potential or show signs of potential and then don't really put the work in, or they kind of like the idea of being a professional or getting into the best teams, but when they get there or have the chance to get into maybe a tier 2 or tier 3 team, they might not put the work in that is needed. So I think it's definitely just more of the hunger within the UK players and needing it to be there, because I think there's definitely potential and always has been, and as you can see there's a few of us that have been able to get into a higher level than outside of the UK. But as I said, it's just about that motivation and make sure everyone can put the hard work in, and maybe the consistency of putting the hard work in, because you can't just put the hard work in for a week or maybe a month. It has to be constant, consistent grind, and I think to do that you just have to have a good mentality, and when things don't go right, it's just kind of going from there. And I think, like I said, I definitely think it's possible, and it just takes time. It's just like I said, I think players in the UK need to just make sure they keep grinding and realising like there is like a way of getting into the professional scene. Just because you're the UK it doesn't mean like you're never going to get a chance. I think you're always going to get a chance. It's just about putting in the work and working on yourself and help improving the team that you're in at the moment. A question that could be kind of similar is like, how can I get everyone on my university level CS team to want to practice and buy into a process of slow improvement? So here it's kind of a similar answer to the UK scene one. It's kind of like, it's just having that mentality that it is going to be a grind to get into a higher level and to kind of improve, because you know, not all these teams and not all these players that play at the best level are just kind of overnight it just happens. It's like all these players have been playing for a long time, they put in a lot of hours and kind of grinded to where they are, and it's the same for me. It's like I said to you, it's like I'm saying to this question now, it's kind of, you got to have that mentality to consistently want to put the work in and put the time in, because obviously sometimes you have stuff like university or you have school and so on that are outside factors, but also there's a way to schedule your work around that and schedule CS around that to kind of still be able to put the time in if that's something you want to do. And it's just the same here. I think it's just about the mentality of wanting to put the work in, because like I said, it doesn't happen overnight. You won't improve like instantly, or you might have a big improvement instantly and then it slows down, but if you put the work in, you'll continuously improve, and that's what the most important thing is. Okay, now we've got, what is it like to play with a player like Crims, and what have I learnt from him? So for me, it's been obviously great to play with someone like him, because he's one of the most experienced players in the scene at the moment. He's been playing pretty much since the start, high level, been to so many majors and won so many top tournaments. So I think for me, it's like being able to learn a lot from him inside and out the game, like making sure I'm staying calm before a game or during the game when things aren't going the way we want, or maybe if we are winning rounds but it's chaotic, then making sure we stay calm. And he's always the guy that makes sure we are doing that and make sure our comms are good and making sure we stay calm within those situations. I think that's a huge thing for me, is just kind of learning things like that. And even in game, it's like he's always, whether that's practice or in officials, he's always like asking questions on what we could have done here, or maybe if I did something not the best way, he might say maybe you could try like this. And it's always like, obviously I'm always going to take that in a good way, because he's saying it in a way that's easy for me to take in. It's just like he wants the best for us as a team, and also me as a player. So it's super easy to get on with him, and when he's giving constructive criticism like that, it's easy to take it in and just kind of improve from there. So it's been really great to play with him so far, and hopefully it just carries on. Next up, we have a similar question, which is kind of like, how has it been for Crimson Brolin to adapt with British players, so in terms of the communication and gameplay, etc. So I think at the start it was definitely hard for both of them, to do with the communication and also the gameplay, and like what the idea was and how we kind of wanted to play as a team, and like what our identity was. And I think that's got better over time, and that's why we have improved as a team. And obviously adding Mezii has helped in terms of like our overall skill ceiling and what our potential is. But I think for those two as well, I think over time they've got more comfortable with the communication, spending more time with us and speaking English all the time. I think it's helped them a lot, obviously. And then in terms of the gameplay, I think for all of us, including them at the start, it was kind of like, where are we going to go with this, and kind of figuring out how everyone's roles are going to go up again, are going to work, and who works best in what situations, and so on. So I think for us it's kind of like we just needed that time, and I think for them as well, it's been a lot better for them over time to be able to get used to their roles and what we're asking of them, or what Alex is asking of them, and so on. So I think over time it's got a lot better, and especially at the start I think it was hard for them to adapt, but now it's just taking that time, and I think they're definitely getting on better now in terms of their roles and how they see the game, or how we see the game as a team, and what our identity is. The next question is, what would you say is the best way to climb faceit and improve and have the best mental during the game? Okay, so like for me, I've never really been one to fully grind faceit or anything like that. I think even before I had like a proper team, or before I got into a tier 2, tier 3 scene, it was kind of like I did play pugs, but not as a full grind type thing, just because I didn't feel like it was the best way for me, and I kind of enjoyed doing more of my like aim routine type stuff and like deathmatching and aim bots and so on. But I definitely feel like to have like the best mental during the games and during faceits and pugs is kind of like just taking one game at a time, and in my opinion maybe not playing like 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it may be, pugs in a day, because I think by the time you get to the end, the last one, you might win it, and it might be a good thing to get the points on. Maybe you want to get to FPLC or FPL, but at the end of the day, like, it might not be best for your overall like attitude or mental towards the end, because it might be pretty frustrating even if you do win. So for me, I kind of had it like, I guess, quality over quantity, and maybe playing 2 or 3 pugs a day when I was grinding and trying to get the best out of those, and maybe my individual performance and seeing where that goes, because I think if you play a lot throughout the day, yes, it might be something you like to do and that might be best for you, but for me, I always kind of try and kept it just to a few pugs and try and get the most out of those. And maybe if I felt good after those, I could take a break and then maybe come back and play 1 or 2 more. But like I said, I think to have the best mentor, I think for me that was the best way to do it, instead of constantly playing loads and loads of pugs each day. Just because towards the end of it, sometimes you might lose a lot and you feel like you've wasted that time. But that's why I only kept it down to 2 or 3 and focused more on my individual like demo watching and aim routine, I guess. Okay, so here we now have is what is your aim routine. So for me, my aim routine is mostly a mixture of everything in terms of deathmatching, workshop maps, KZ, surf, and then just like demo watching as a whole, or learning grenades and making sure I remember my grenades that I already know. But like more specifically, I guess I don't go so hard on it or grind on it like some players maybe. I don't spend hours and hours on deathmatch or hours on the workshop maps. I kind of, like I said, keep it a bit more lower and more focused in during that time. So maybe it's like around 300 deathmatch kills, let's say, using M4 and AK, and maybe some pistol deathmatch as well, which I enjoy quite a lot. And then also aimbots, I maybe do like 500 to start the day or something just to get warm, and then like spending like 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it may be, on KZ and surf like each, just because I find those quite enjoyable. And I think it helps with your overall movement, obviously, in game. I'm not the best at them, but it helps me. Like, it's a good way to play CS without actually like just constantly focusing on aim and everything. I think it's a good way to just kind of chill on the game, but also slowly improve on the smaller details in the game, like the movement and so on. So for me, it's just like that deathmatch, workshop maps, and also the movement style, like KZ and surf is what I focus on, and then watching a couple demos, trying to keep up to date with what each player is doing in my positions that I play, and kind of working on that and seeing what I can do differently, because obviously if you're playing the same way as you did years ago, it's not going to be working now, and it's all about constantly updating your playbook and how you want to play as an individual to make sure you stay on top, or make sure you stay with the rest of the players, because you're never going to improve if you just constantly doing the same thing, because especially tier 1 level, they look at the players so much when they do anti-strat and so on, so it can be kind of hard to just do the same things, because they're just going to know exactly what you're doing and counter it pretty easily. Okay, is your config ever changing, or you are set at the moment? So for me, my config very rarely changes, especially obviously my movement is a bit different to what most people use. But then in terms of like sensitivity, crosshair, resolution, I very rarely change as well. I usually would go from like maybe stretch to black bars for like a day or something if I was getting kind of bored of stretch, but it would be like a DM session on stretched and on black bars, and then change back to stretched. But yeah, that's the most I'll ever change. It's very rare I do that. I usually just keep everything pretty much the same in terms of crosshair, and I always use the same dot crosshair, and same with the resolution. I pretty much keep the same, and it's very rare I change it, so I'm pretty much set on the config side of things. Okay, so now we have some more random questions. So we've got, what's the best flavour M&M? I would say the crispy M&Ms are the best for sure. What do you eat for breakfast? Mostly cereal, just because I think cereal's the nicest thing, even though it's probably full of loads of sugar and everything. But I think for cereal, I just really enjoy eating that, so I usually have that for breakfast most of the time. And then we've got, have you got any Christmas plans? I was meant to be going to Paris for just a weekend, but then obviously that got shut down because of the lockdown, stopping people from the UK going there, which is unfortunate. But other than that, not really, just spending time with family and just relaxing and playing CS for fun, and just having a break as well, just checking out other games. I don't know, I don't really enjoy a lot of other games, but mostly just relaxing and just over this period kind of resetting and making sure I'm ready for the season next year. So now we have, when are you coming home? Ash is behaving now. Okay, not sure about that one. Ash is never behaving. That guy he thinks he's a international social media star now with these tweets that he has. So now we have, is your name inspired by the footballer? If not, how did your name come to be? Okay, so this one is, obviously it seems pretty much the exact same, or it seems like it would be inspired by the footballer, but it's not. For my nickname, it's kind of like in real life, my friends at school called me Mez, M-E-Z, and that was my nickname growing up with most of my friends. And then when I started playing CSGO, I had a few skins like the Asimov and so on, and when I was putting name tags on them, I was obviously new to the game and just wanted to seem cool by adding name tags, and had like, with how the Asimov is, it's two eyes, so at the start I called it the Mezii Mov, and then just stuck with the M-E-Z double I, and that's basically how my name kind of came to be, and that's what I use now. But no, it's not inspired by the football, it was just kind of messing about with the CSGO skins and putting name tags on, and kind of used my nickname from real life and just added two eyes from the Asimov from the very start. Are you Blue Nose or Villa? That is a definite obvious Blue Nose, because there's no chance I'd ever be supporting Villa. Full stop, no chance. Orange or apple juice? This is a tough one, to be honest. It kind of depends on the day or the morning, because usually I drink it for breakfast or whatever, but I think I would have to go for apple juice. I think that's definitely the way to go. Thank you for all the questions, and thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe for future content.
Give you a good time.